This is Erica Mabian with KCPS Homeroom. I am the iSpark CTE coordinator, and I'm here today for our real world learning in STEM. I have my special guest as Emily Roden with Bernstein Mcdonald. Can you tell us your position there?
Hi, Erica. Yes, my name is Emily Roden, and I do educational outreach for Bernstein Mcdonald. I've been there for a little over 9 years now, and basically my job is to introduce STEM learning and STEM initiatives to students K through 12 in the Kansas City metro area and to our regional offices.
Oh, that's awesome. So could you tell us a little bit, how did Bernstein Mcdonald get involved in STEM education?
Right, so almost 10 years ago, we decided to put on a contest around Kansas City, and we teamed up with Science City, and we had a contest called Battle of the Brains. A lot of you might have heard of it, and you will see exhibits around Science City like you've seen. And we let kids come up with these concepts and a proposal for a new exhibit at Science City. And we saw the hands-on learning and the real-world learning, which I'm not sure we called it that back then, but we saw that taking place. And as we saw it grow and as we saw the excitement, we wanted to make sure we were being more engaging in that, right? Like industry really needed to start teaming up with education to find more experiences like this and really give the classroom and show teachers and show students that what we're doing in school and what we're doing in the real world needs to connect. So that's how it all started.
That is so awesome. The Battle of the Brains is an incredible experience that I had engaged my students with this past year. And of course, I love going to Science City and seeing all the exhibits. And the bonus is knowing that it came from the minds of our students. That's just so incredible. So
right. And it's not just, it's not just high school kids doing this. This is K through 12. We have exhibits in there from students who are in elementary school. That blows my mind, and I absolutely love it.
I just love that too. And I love that you all had the vision and the dedication to making that come to fruition. So why is this so important to Bernstein Mcdonald?
Okay, so, we have, like I said, when we saw those students, we want those students to come to work go to work for Bernstein Mcdonald someday, right? So we saw these students as our future workforce. Why not start investing in them now, right? So, and investing in them means foundation dollars. It means time. It means coming up with programs to really delve into their studies and what they're doing, and as well as the teachers, right? So this is the future workforce that we're talking about. There's no better time than when they're young and hungry and curious, and to foster that as they go through kindergarten, first, second, 9, 10, 11, 12, as they go through school. So instead of crying about, hey, we don't have enough people in our workforce, let's do something about it on the front end, right? So that's why it's so important.
That's fantastic. You mentioned before about Battle of the Brains, and I'm familiar with that particular program, but what have been some of your other successes and some of your other programs that Bernstein Mcdonald has and started doing?
So first thing I did when I came in is I formulated a formal job shadow program for high school students to come in and have a career conversation with an engineer or an architect or a scientist and really focus on, is this something that I would want to do? What exactly is engineering? What is it? What is consulting engineering? So they're answering all those questions, right? And they kind of get to see a day in the life of that STEM professional. We also focused on teacher externships, which is kind of like a teacher job shadow, if you will, right? We focused on summer camps. We do a really good job of getting students interested in STEM, and then we do a really awesome job of getting students in an internship once they hit college. But what was that in between time looking like? So we wanted to make sure and keep them connected through summer camps, keeping them engaged with Burns and Mcdonald professionals in that capacity. We have evening programs for parents and students to sort of demystify engineering and to really talk about what it is as opposed to what we think it might be about, right? And show how exciting it can be and how life-changing, world-changing, how necessary it is, right? So we talk about all the really cool, fun stuff because sometimes I don't think students can grasp that that's the engineers that we have in this world really make everything that we do, right? And now we need students to come up with how do we make that better? How can we make things easier? How do we make things more attainable for all people in all of the world, right? Safe drinking water, access to different things. So that's what we want to make it about, right? These are the kids of this next generation and on and on and on. They have the responsibility of changing this world and making it better. And we want to be a part of that for them, right? And we want to help foster the development and the thinking and keeping that curiosity and keeping that excitement as they go through school. So I digress, but job shadowing, the summer camps, evening programs. We have a really cool new program coming out for teachers, especially in that K-6 realm, called an Early Educator Fellowship, where we're really focused on the thinking of students and flipping our classroom, not the content so much as how we're teaching it, right? And giving the opportunity for project-based learning. And what are some real-world problems that are out there that students could solve even in the classroom, right? So that's what, those are some of the different programs that we have, along with, hey, let's get in the classroom and talk about what we do, and maybe let's judge some projects that are already going on, some super cool are going on in the classroom. So really about developing relationships with teachers too.
I love all that you said about how you really immerse students and their families in just becoming aware of just all the components of what goes on at Burns Mcdonald, even to the extent that people don't even really think about like engineering. They may only think about one type of engineering. You've got civil engineering, and there's just so many different dynamics. And those can be challenges or barriers for people that are trying to go in a different path. So could you really kind of get into some of the other challenges that you've come up against or that you've discovered throughout this time of introducing these programs?
Right. So one thing that was challenging for me at the start was thinking outside the box of who we talk to, right? It was really easy to connect the dots to Project Lead the Way teachers, for example, or engineering class teachers, those who are teaching those concepts already, physics teachers. But we really wanted to look at what some students don't know what they don't know, right? So why can't we get involved in a math class? Why can't we look at students even in an English class, right? And talk about, hey, this is what STEM is. This is what STEM stands for, right? Because 9 years ago, it wasn't as prevalent as it is today. And here's what engineering is, you guys. It's not the concept that you thought in your head. They don't just drive trains. They don't just build buildings. They don't just build roads. So there's so many other things that go on. And we want to reach the students who don't know what they don't know. So let's introduce it to all students, not just ones who kind of have an affinity to it or want to, their mom or dad did it, right? So I kind of have a knowledge of it. We wanted to reach those students who maybe didn't even have a clue that was what an engineer was, or that they did more than drive trains or build buildings, right?
Right.
So that was one of our biggest challenges was how do we reach all the students, right? So.
Yeah, I have a thing that I really believe in, and that's you cannot be what you do not see. And it really sounds like you all are really delving into that and making that connection to their real world learning. So could you tell us how more ways that real world learning pertains to Burns and McDonald specifically, and how you make those impacts? You mentioned having internships and fellowships for teachers and students, but could you get a little bit more specific about the real world learning aspect? Because this is the real world learning show.
No, and it is one thing that we are really trying to focus on. You hear about these client-connected projects. You hear about just different types of experiences. And job shadowing is absolutely one of those. And I think summer camps is also one of those because they get to work on a project. But I have been finding, and this isn't just in Kansas City, Erica. This is like, I had an engineer in Vancouver that was like, okay, we have, and they didn't call it client connected project, right? But it's basically helping these students. They have to do a project. And so it's saying, hey, we had this project, these engineers that they worked on this project. Could we make it so that a student or a group of students work on this project at school? And we'll give them these parameters, right? But that they can work on it as well. These students are getting a chance to work in teams. Everything we do at Burns and McDonald is done in teams. We are not siloed out, right? These students have to learn how to work with people that they don't necessarily agree with. They have to work with their best friend. I mean, I have a problem with that, right? I will go off on a tangent and start chatting away. But how do we keep focused on a project? How do we communicate effectively in a project? And it's really starting to look at how can I be a part of a project, lead a project, what's my part in that project, and how to then learn how to solve the problem, hear people out, recognize no bad ideas from the start. How do we brainstorm? How do we then communicate with our clients and the outside realm? How do we pitch our ideas? So there's lots of things that go around to it, including the project itself, right? We wanted to make that fun. So it can do, and so we've been kind of brainstorming some client connected projects just at Burns McDonald. And some crazy ones like, where would we put a new parking garage? That's a problem. Could students come up with, what's the safety around Burns McDonald? We have a lot of Burns McDonald folks that walk around our building at lunch. If you ever drive by our building off Ward Parkway, you'll see a lot of walkers. And so is it safe? What are the safety measures that need to be kept in mind? Looking at stormwater retention and stormwater ponding, like around Burns. So we've been kind of thinking about what's that Burns and Mac. Also then focusing on what are our clients doing and sort of introducing those concepts. Like client-connected projects is kind of a big focus for us right now. And we have some cool ones coming down the pipe. So that we can teach these concepts of STEM, right? Engineering and excitement in STEM. And then the concept of how it works in a team atmosphere and bringing that all together. Because communicating effectively is so important throughout all of this. So.
Yes, I acknowledge that so much, that you really focused on communicating and the teamwork aspect, and we really try to incorporate that in classrooms, but sometimes the replication of those dynamics can feel artificial without something tangible, and the kids are just like, you're just making this up and this is not real and this is not authentic. So I really appreciate that it's something that these are things that really happen in the real world, and so students can really have that connection, and then they have that grown-up mentor that is actually doing that in the workforce. So I really see that the learning can take place in a manner that couldn't typically take place in the traditional classroom setting. So in addition to communicating effectively and working in a team, what are some of the other skills that you think our students need in order to kind of go through that process of gaining all of these skills in a real world learning capacity?
Okay, so these are some of my favorite ones because these aren't necessarily ones that we always talk about. We always talk about communication, right? Communication here, communication there. Written, oral, all of those things. Being a self-starter, seeing the problems as they come about, wanting to problem solve, thinking the ideas through. How do we brainstorm? How do we respect others' opinions, right?
That's huge.
Right. So even that respect factor. Fostering your curiosity. I think sometimes that can get squelched as we go through our academic career because we see these boundaries, right? And we've even seen that in Battle of the Brains, right? These elementary kids, boom, they are out there. They want to build a 16-story volcano with lava spewing out of it every hour, right? Right? Why wouldn't you? And the secondary kids are like, no, that's not going to work, But how do you find that happy medium where you still develop that curiosity and that brainstorming and that excitement without squelching it and then one of the biggest things that we like to look at too is how do we come back from failure? How do we look at failure in a more positive light, right? Just because something doesn't work the first time or your team says that might not be the best idea for this, how do we come back from that? And how do we learn that failure isn't the end of the world? Failure doesn't mean you're a failure as a person, right? It means that you need to take that and pick that up and learn from it to then do something better the next time around.
Right. That's so awesome. I have a thing I call in my classroom is productive struggle. So we're going to go through those struggles and we're going to stick together and we're going to look at what didn't work and build on it and find out how we continue to move forward and take in those things that are around us to help us go to that next level. Take in that criticism, take in those constraints, and see how we can keep going in order to make that happen. And I'm so grateful that you all at Burns and Mcdonald are just coming into the ecosystem of education and kind of really shattering all the boundaries that traditionally existed and then adding these components that kids can really see, because kids are so smart now. They're like, is this for a grade? And why do we have to do this? And does it really matter? And those are the things that the real world learning components and the STEM, bringing those curiosities that you said, those inclinations, not squelching down their curiosities, and they're like, oh, well, I bet I could do this. And they don't have any constraints regarding that. The sky is the limit. So I'm really excited about all of the things that you all are doing and how you're contributing to not just students, but the parents and the teachers. It's kind of like a home run. First, second, and third base. Slide into the plate and we're ready to go.
Yeah, that's exactly right. It takes all of us, right? And so in recognizing that, we want to make sure that we're touching, and exposing this to all of those folks. And because parents can be a big factor and a big influence on what a student decides to look at as they graduate high school. And what path do they want to go down in this? And parents can have a big influence on that. I think teachers have a really huge influence on that too, Erica, and I don't think teachers get that sometimes. So we want to make sure we're showing this to all of those folks. You're right. So.
That's really awesome. Well, Emily Roden, I really appreciate you bringing all of your passion and your enthusiasm for what you do at Burns McDonald and really making it to come to life, because I do really feel like that it's really changing everything, especially all of my experiences of going to Science City. And I have grown children and we go to Science City with my grown children. And I'm like, look at this and this is so cool. And look at all the learning that we continue to do. So we can never stop learning. We continue to grow. And I appreciate the contributions that you all are making to our educational ecosystem. Thank you so much for being a part of Real World Learning with STEM on KCPS Homeroom. And we will see you again. Thank you so much.
Thanks for having me.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Hey Kansas City, it's Chef Tom. I'm over here at the Cardinal Cafe at Manual on Truman Road. We're at 1215 East Truman Road, Kansas City, Missouri. Just want to say hello today to Kansas City and all the points beyond. Today, we're going to make some amazing homemade blueberry muffins. One of the things that I want to talk about that in the past maybe I haven't said is that everything I do, I use a recipe, okay? Because there's nothing in the world wrong with using a recipe. Some of the best chefs I know, everything they do, even if they've made the recipe a dozen times or 100 times, they still pull it out of the box, okay? Never be ashamed to use a recipe. Today, we're going to make this blueberry muffin that has a streusel topping on it, and that's going to be made of some flour and sugar and cinnamon and butter. So as you see, we've got a 1/4 cup of cold chilled butter in our bowl, and we're going to go ahead and get a 1/2 cup of sugar. And you always want to make sure that you're measuring nice and level, okay? We're going to dump that right in. We're going to get a tablespoon of cinnamon in here. Now, me personally, all my measuring cups and spoons are held together so that I'm never looking for them. If I've got one, I've got them all. Again, we just want a nice and level spoon. Dump that right in there. And then a 1/4 cup of flour. Again, a nice even measurement. Just scrape it across, make sure it's level, okay? And this streusel, you can use a fork or a dough knife, but to tell you the truth, this is something that I use my hands on, okay? We're just gonna get in there and we're gonna start crushing up that butter and mixing everything up. And this takes a minute. This does not just happen. So you're just gonna be in here, turning it and mixing it with your hands. And see that? We're just smashing up that butter, okay? And get both your hands right in there and just work that butter. And you want it to be dry in appearance, and you want to really get that butter broke down. And the reason that I like doing this with my hands is that the heat from my hands helps to break that butter down and get a better mixture. And so you see, it's starting to get to the point where it's looking like streusel. You know, that it's bunching up a little. And that's exactly what we're looking for. And I like to get my streusel done first because I like it to just sit for a few minutes after I mix it. And that way everything kind of just comes to temperature together. And then you get some nice little clumps of butter in there that melt on top of your muffins that really work nice for your caramelization. So, that right there is our streusel. Real simple, not a big deal. And man, it looks great. So, we're going to set this aside and we're going to go ahead. I'm going to wash my hands. And then we're going to come back and we're going to start making our muffin batter. I'll be right back. Alright, so now we've got our streusel made. We're going to get into really getting these muffins put together. So when I'm reading a recipe, I will read it all the way through so that I am sure that all of my mise en place, or everything in place, is together, okay? So the first thing that this calls for is 3 cups of all-purpose flour. So we go ahead and we dig our cup in there and we just flatten it out, okay? It's 1, 2, 3, Now, after our flour, we're going to need 1.5 cups of sugar. Now sugar, unlike flour, will pretty much self-level, okay? See that? Then we need another 1/2 cup of sugar. And I'm telling you, that's when having your measuring cups put together comes in handy. All right, then we're gonna get to our teaspoons. We need a teaspoon of salt. Now, please don't ever measure your salt over your bowl, because the fact of the matter is that if you're pouring out of the spout and you get too much, it's in there. And once it's in, there's no getting it out. So, our baking powder is here. Remember, baking powder is what helps your product to rise. And we're going to use 1 tablespoon, and again, you're leveling it off, and 1 teaspoon. Again, just level it off. Now, we are starting to do our wet ingredients. So what I like to do at this point is I like to take my spatula and get in there and give my ingredients a little blend. And what we do is we just make a well down here in the bottom of the bowl. And that's where we're going to put our wet ingredients right now. We're going to start with our vegetable oil, and we need 1 cup. And then after that, we're going to go ahead and we're going to take 3 eggs. Now remember, when we crack eggs, we don't crack them right into our work bowl, do we? No. Crack them to the table, into a bowl. We inspect the egg, make sure that there's no shell, that there's no unwanted protein, just a nice clean egg product, and in. Okay? Crack. Dump. Crack. Dump. And I know that you are going to get really good at cracking eggs, and you're going to be like, I'm not going to get any shell in there. Guess what? I do this because even I still get shell in things. So it's better off to just do it the right way, okay? All you want to do is the right thing when you're doing this. So our milk calls for 1 cup. So this small container is 8 ounces, and there's 8 ounces in a cup. So I really don't have a need to measure this one. And now we have 1 bit of liquid left, and that's going to be our vanilla. And we are going to go ahead and do a teaspoon of vanilla. Now, we have all of our ingredients in here. When we mix this, we're just going to come from the outside in. And the thing is, we don't want to mix this so much that it's entirely smooth, okay? We want to make sure that we're breaking our egg yolks and we're getting everything well incorporated. But here's the thing. Right here you can see that our yolks are broken and that we are about midway done in mixing this, okay? Right now is when we want to add our 2 cups of frozen blueberries. And I prefer frozen blueberries to fresh blueberries for consistency and size. So here goes 1. Here goes 2. We're just going to set these guys aside. And we're going to continue to mix and fold our batter. Now you can see that this is a thick batter. And as we mix, we're getting the rest of that egg mixture in there. But here's the thing. We don't want to go too far. We don't want it smooth. So I'm going to stop right there. Okay? It's really hard to get yourself to stop mixing because you think, oh, it must need just a little bit more. But it doesn't, okay? All you want to do is get most of the lumps out, but you still want some lumps. So we have this beautiful muffin batter. Now we are making big muffins, okay? A regular muffin pan is about half this size. So you will buy smaller papers in the store. But the fact of the matter is, if you want to make nice big muffins like they do in the bakery, this is the way to do it. Hey, we're going to take our nice big 1 cup scoop. We're going to go in, just a nice flat scoop, and in the paper. And believe me, if you can do this on a Sunday morning, you can get all of your ingredients together on Saturday night, and all of your dry ingredients can be on the counter. And then Sunday morning when you get up, you just get your wet ingredients and go to town. Look at that, 6 gorgeous muffins. What do those muffins need? That's right, a little bit of streusel. And this is so cool because our streusel just goes right on top here like this, okay? Yeah, that is exactly how we want these muffins to look before they go in, okay? I'm gonna turn on the oven and put these babies in. Now, when you're making these muffins, you're gonna cook them on 375 for 25 to 30 minutes. I like to set my timer at 20 minutes and then assess how done they are because, very simply, different people have different ovens. My ovens are well calibrated, but that doesn't mean at home you don't have an oven that might run cool or warm. So start them at 20 minutes and then check them. So we're gonna take 1 second, and what are we gonna do? We're gonna clean and sanitize this area because that has to happen all the time. We are to a stopping point, but we're not stopping. We're gonna leave this recipe over here so that the cameraman can get a shot of that just before we close today, so that if this is something you want to do at home, you have the recipe. So, we're going to start out with our wash water first. We always wash the work table first because that has to happen. Okay? If you just sanitize a work table without washing it, you're leaving stuff on that table. That's not good. And again, when we're sanitizing something, our sanitation water has to be 200 to 400 parts per million. Okay, we're just going to give this a quick wipe. And then guess what? We've got muffins that have been in the oven already that are coming out right now. Oh my gosh, do these smell delicious. Woo. That is a warm pan, but there is your finished product of absolutely gorgeous blueberry muffins. Nothing better on a Sunday morning. And there's the recipe that goes with them. The fact of the matter is I hope you try this recipe and I hope you're successful with it. If there's ever anything you want to see that I'm not doing, you can email me at tbelisle@kcpublicschools.org. I hope you enjoy your food. I hope you have a great day.
I chose manual because it's challenging and fun, and it can help me with college.
I chose manual because I wanted to get a jump start in my career with culinary arts.
I chose manual to acquire skills I'd use in real life.
I chose manual because I want to be an ER doctor, and being an EMT is my first step.
Kickstart your future today at Manual Career and Technical Center. Manual is open for all 11th and 12th grade students in both Kansas and Missouri. Learn more today at enrollkc.org/manual or call 816-418-5200.
The desire to create lives within each of us. From Grammy-winning producers and musicians, to NBA stars, to Navy admirals and Medal of Honor recipients, to internationally renowned artists and beloved local muralists, Paseo graduates have been creating their own success, their own history, their own legacy since 1926. Now it's your time. Create your future at Paseo Academy of Fine and Performing Arts. Learn more at enrollkc.org/Paseo.
Good morning, Kansas City. Welcome to another fantastic day in our city. I imagine it's recovering from a cold a few days ago or many days ago, or if we're airing this later in the season, then you probably remember what it was like. But today in Kansas City, as we're making this recording, it is negative something degrees. So let's just put that on the side and warm up to thinking about why we're here today and what this show is about. So if you remember, these shows are called Life After KCPS, and I have been reaching out to some people who have graduated from this school district, and they've been coming on and telling their story and how about they might have discovered what they wanted to do after KCPS, or maybe even during sometimes, because a lot of the people who I've talked to, it's pretty neat, have discovered quite a bit during KCPS that gave them some great paths after KCPS. So, and I would say once KCPS, always KCPS, as I myself graduated from one of our schools in 1996, and I still hold that really important to my heart. So today we're joined by one of those graduates, and his name is Micah Thompson. And welcome, Micah.
Hey everyone, my name is Micah Thompson. I'm a photographer and also lighting designer here in the Kansas City, Missouri area.
All right, so you're a photographer and a lighting designer, and you
Yes.
went to also the now famous, because we've done so many of these interviews about Paseo, also went to Paseo Academy. What year did you graduate?
I graduated in the year of 2011.
2011. Okay. And tell me, like, what was your experience like there? What did you do? What did you dabble in? What kept you busy when you were at Paseo?
While I was at Paseo, my background, I was a theater major, but I was into technical theater more so. So I was doing lighting, sound, and also scenic design as well. So a lot of the times I was running around as I got older, as I got older and became a senior, I started kind of being in charge of a lot of responsibilities, like running sound, lights for different shows, including help build scenic, build sets for our plays and stuff like that. And I also did some work outside of the school, through the school, but I also had some other companies come in and help. I would also assist in helping them run their shows and stuff like that too.
Yeah, that's fantastic. So that's kind of one of those situations where, and I remember it because I was there too, seeing how much work goes into theater sometimes that people don't ever realize, or do, but don't really do. So they probably don't really realize, but you never stood still during those shows, right?
Absolutely not.
Right.
It was one thing after another. So I was just like, I was in one, and 1 second I'm in the auditorium, next thing I'm in the black box, or running it down the hallway into the school building, having to cue some people like to get on stage and stuff like that. It was crazy. It was crazy, but fun though. It was fun.
Sure. And a great experience, because that's what in the moment feels like, and you have to respond to the challenges of theater, and it's live, and so that's exciting. And so do you feel like some of that served you to help you discover those interests or build those skills?
Absolutely. So I feel like on my freshman year, it started on my freshman year. Before, around that time, I went to Paseo Middle School, and I started dabbling into the technical side of theater. And then when I transferred over into my to the Paseo High School side, that's when I finally feel like that's when I found out that was my passion. And I started wanting to really dive into it from there.
Yeah, that's great. So it did serve you to just keep on that path, and you're still on that path now?
Yes, I'm still on that path. After high school, I did community college for about 2 years, and then I transferred over to UMKC, and that's where I picked it back up and got exposed on a whole entirely different level. But what I learned from high school, I was able to carry that over, and it did serve me well. And I never felt like I lost or anything was left out. I felt like I brought so much of high school with me that I was just like I already had a foundation. It gave me a foundation to build upon.
Yeah, that's great. And probably lots of people, like more people doing what you were almost doing all by yourself or with just a person or two on the high school scope. I bet it got bigger when you go across the street to a bigger campus. And the theater program at UMKC is really remarkable. So I wonder was it also a treat after all these years, both at Paseo, and to just get to be part of all those shows?
Absolutely. Being a part of those shows, I feel like working the shows, you start to learn a lot about yourself, but also another way of being around others. And for theater itself, it's a special community of different people coming together to help create something. Yeah. So like, especially different depending on the story, what you're doing. It's just like when you get a bunch of different ideas, and it helps you view different lifestyles of different people that you might not get to on normally. Mm-hmm. So I feel like being a part of the theater community has opened my mind on a far greater scale than what I probably would have if I'd done any other field personally.
Yeah, that's really fantastic. Well, thanks for opening it up to us and helping us experience it, because I know it does seem very much like a profession when you're in high school and you have that opportunity. But then I wonder, what's it take to really choose to keep doing it? And was it scary to go for it and make that something you were going to do?
Absolutely. I think when you're in the high school setting, it's a little bit different for when you get into the college setting. So, when you're in high school, it's professional to an extent, but it's still just kind of, I'll say like we're having fun with it back in school. We're still exploring, and I feel like we could have a lot more open imagination for different things. And just like the world's a huge open book for us back in high school. But then when you get into the professional side, a little bit more of a reality check had to be in play a little bit. And then you start learning about the business. Yeah.
You're actually competing for work, and you have to be really professional about it, I would imagine. And that there's probably a high demand for good work, but it's probably hard to get those jobs, I would imagine. Yeah.
Absolutely. Like everyone's trying to get work in the field. So it's just a matter of who is the best. And for each client that you're working for, say like a dance company, a theater company, who is going to be your best scenic designer, costume, lighting designer, sound designer, who is going to be the best suited for the job.
Wow. So that's so much fun. So we can explore that part of you, which we kind of have a little bit. Tell me, have you jumped over the stage lines to be in shows? I know you did that a little bit, or more and more at Paseo, really, right? You were in Little Shop of Horrors?
Oh, no. I was only on stage once back in high school. But
what was the show?
Yes.
I was trying to remember.
The Boy Who Couldn't Get the Shivers. It was during a summer program at theater on 18th and Vine.
I remember it. Okay. wrong play though, for sure.
Yeah.
So not so much. You're still kind of staying away from being on stage.
Absolutely. Yeah. I have mad respect for anyone who does it. It's just not for me. It's not for everybody.
So then shift for me. How does photography come into the picture then? Because I know you're doing that both with like people who pursue you to do a shoot, right? But so how does that come to play into your picture?
I think for photography, it's for me, photography is another creative outlet for me, and I'm able to carry some of the things from theater to my photography. Like for lighting wise, like if for lighting design, you have to understand lighting. I feel like lighting is one of the most key important factors to doing photography. Mm-hmm. So I was able to carry that on into my photography, and I've been exploring just different how to explore and be creative with it. I've been playing around with different like gel colors, LED lighting and stuff like that, and just play with different tones, shadows and things like that. So I feel like if I honestly would recommend for theater majors and maybe even creative writing majors even to just like explore other creative outlets, like including photography. Yeah. Specifically photography for theater majors. I think it's a great way of exploring how to use light to create a scene. Mm-hmm. And it's like in its control, a little bit more controlled for yourself. And
I would agree. And it's about the moment, right? It's about the details that other people might not have paid attention to that you stop right there when you, right? So yeah, I've always loved that, especially like black and white photography. And I'm old enough that we still had a dark room, and I did take that in high school also, of learning how to bring a picture like magically to life in a tray in front of you in some liquid, right? That some young people would think we were crazy today, but there was really the same thing. What did I do? Like, did I stop the aperture at the right time? And so I have a little background, and that's awesome to see that you're doing that kind of on the artistic scale. Yeah. And I would expect so, because that's you. And that's like, again, what kind of Paseo maybe dipped you in, that just taking pictures to me is so much different than photography, because photography is about the nuance and the lighting and the kind of magic of bringing the person, their true essence out with a camera, right? So do you do that well? Do you nail it when you feel like you've hit or do people tell you that when they talk about your photos?
Yeah, I've gotten a lot of comments. Like a lot of people feel like I've actually captured the moment brilliant, like exactly, or what they were hoping for it to be. And it's not always easy, and it's a lot of it's just like anything, a lot of trial and error. And I think a lot of people get discouraged about that because it's just like failure, the fear of failure. But I feel like with failure comes a lesson, which helps you grow and improvement. So I feel that I'm able to hit the mark, but it's because of the multiple trials and errors that I was able to get to that level.
That's very cool. Yeah, that's one of my favorite quotes by an ancient author is the secret to success is just constancy of purpose. Mm-hmm. And, not necessarily doing 5 million different things, but staying in one, getting good at it. And then it branches out and serves you in so many ways. So I love that, because I can see how your artistry is kind of all channeling into a common goal. That's really, really awesome. And does that feel good?
Absolutely. And it feels amazing to be able to do this and to just keep exploring other genres within this passion of mine. Yeah. So now I'm still exploring, and I'm excited to see what I can come up with. Like I'm also I get inspiration from like reading books and also like other old concept, just reading magazines, art magazines and stuff like that. And I'm thinking, what can I do? I like this. How can I bring these together to create something new? And it's just like, there's so many possibilities with photography for me. And just can't wait to see what I create and explore and keep on exploring it.
That's fantastic. All right. If you've been listening this morning, and I know you have, and want to learn more about this young man, his name is Micah Thompson, and we're going to let him send you out the door telling us a little bit if you're a young person or not a young person out there in this city. And a lot of things to take into consideration this year, that if you are finding your path and your dream and your vision, that there have been about 1 million obstacles, and seems like more coming every day we go back out into this world. So we're just going to put all that pressure on Micah, and he's going to lead with the best advice of the whole world, but really no pressure, man, because your message has already come through of find yourself by continuing to do what you love, I think. But what would you tell people on top of that this morning?
Don't be afraid to try new things. And that's what I feel like that's a major thing that plays a part in it. Because I questioned if I was going to do it or not, but I think it all started back while I was doing theater, because I was taking pictures for dance concerts because I was designing dance routines, and also I had to take portfolio for my own line designs. So it kind of started there, and I felt like, I can do this, but I want to get better. Maybe I should explore this. I haven't tried this really enough, so let me explore this a little bit more. And maybe I'll like it, maybe I won't, but let me at least try. So I feel, so to anyone new, to young people, don't be afraid to try something new, and don't be afraid of failure. If failure comes away, I say welcome it with open arms, but because it'll teach you a lesson to help you grow in whatever it is you want to do. And the more that, if you keep an open mind and keep trying new things, you're going to you might find that one thing that you're passionate about, and you want to explore that thing for your creativity. And you won't know where it will take you. You won't. So be open-minded, try, fail, keep trying again. Don't stop, keep going.
All right. Thank you so much, Micah. And thank you, KC, for listening this morning on Real World Friday. If you would like to call in or find a way to get a hold of us, my name is Chris Odom, and I work for kcpublicschools.org. All you have to do is put my first and last name together, CODAM, at kcpublicschools.org. And you could write me an email or suggest to me someone who you think might be a great person to come on and talk on this show. Again, students who are listening, we're hoping to speak to you about the land that awaits after high school, and also kind of affirm to you that there are great people who come from your schools, who surround you and live in your city every day. Kansas City Public Schools is part of our city, and would like you to think of us, the people who have gone there, graduated from there, and continue to live here, as a valuable contributor in our own place where we do live and breathe every day. Certainly met a wonderful person today in Micah, and thank you for being here this morning, sir. And I wish you the best.
Thank you very much. Thank you for having me.
See you, Kansas City.
Hello, we're happy to have you visit Carver. We are a dual language school where our students become truly bilingual and biliterate.
Welcome to Carver Dual Language.
Hola, bienvenido al primer grado en Carver. Welcome to first grade in Carver. In kindergarten and first grade, all students learn to read and write in Spanish.
Welcome to 4th grade at Carver. In 4th grade, our students have the opportunity to join our robotics team. Our students work together on a community project and learn to code a robot's movements.
By 6th grade, Carver students are truly bilingual and biliterate. Students can fluently speak, read, and write in both Spanish and English. Carver students move on to much success in middle school, high school, and beyond.
We celebrate Hispanic heritage throughout the year at Carver Dual Language. Each year, students develop a plan to make goods to develop and to sell at our mercado. This is our annual fall market that classes have booths that students come together and sell their items that they've created. Staff, community members, family, parents, grandparents, all can come together, buy the goods, and celebrate Hispanic heritage together.
In Carver, we have an involved PTA where parents and families can be part of our school community.
Thank you for joining us on this tour. If you would like to schedule a personal tour or learn more about our school, please call 816-418-4925.